A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. We're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria's Commercial and Lab Center. I'm Jeffrey Ozama, and of course, you're wondering why Ayo is here. Well, it's on a little transfer. Yes, just a little transfer window.
Transfer season so occasionally, I'm just a borrowed player. Thank you so much for being here. Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome.
Well, there's been a lot that's been happening in our country. Some days you wake up as a journalist or as a Nigerian, you're looking for what to smile about. There are days you're fortunate to hear and see and know that there's something to smile about. But in the recent weeks, it's been difficult to smile because as we speak, although the Vice President has made that visit to Kebbi State to commiserate and give that encouragement to the government and the people, especially the families of those girls, 25 of them. I think this should be about 72 hours or so. And the danger, that's why some of us are very concerned. Every time there's been a mass abduction, they never come back complete. From Chibok to Dapchi to any other one that I can remember on this scale. And now, although the numbers now is quite less than the others, 25, we hope the entire 25 can come back whole. But the experts will tell you that the more you delay, the farther they can go and the more they can disperse them. And so it's quite a very difficult situation. I was watching Ayo. I know that there are moments in history, and perhaps this is one of such moments in history where we need to come together as a country and say the truth, brutal truth to ourselves so that we can solve our problem. One of the things I found out in our country is that we lie a lot to ourselves. We're not brutally honest. So we keep avoiding the real hard questions, so we can't really diagnose the problem to solve and provide a solution. I was watching that engagement with Piers Morgan by the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. I know there's a nuances of diplomacy, trying to douse the situation on the international community. I totally am in support of anything because of anything that can restore hope for the people of Nigeria. That's on one hand. On the other hand is the fact that we may not be sure of the broader intention of the American government, given the trail of what has happened when they come into a country. So some people, and some of us have said, invasion to clear out these terrorists, a great idea, but let the Nigerian government step up first to see if they can't do it, then the American government can come. Where I'm going to with this statement is the fact that I felt very, somehow, almost sad, listening to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Great guy, a lot of respect for him. But the way he was trying to downplay casualty figures, in my view, because he was pushed to ask, he dismissed the framing of a Christian genocide, targeted killing, persecution. All of that makes the government uneasy. But the people who are at the receiving end, they've doubled down to say that is their reality. And I don't think anybody can contest that. You can say their characterization is wrong based on the premise that you define it. But when it was pushed to ask questions, and this interview has been like 3 or 4 days ago, pushed to ask questions about how many people, Christians, were killed. He said churches attacked, people killed in the process, about 177. But the question was how many of the Christians were killed? I don't know whether he answered that question, but if his number of Christians that have been killed in the last 5 years, he's putting it at slightly over 170, 77, is a lie. Because if you go to Mangu and Bokos, you remember the Christmas Eve massacre, the numbers range from between 140, 150, 160, depending on who you're listening to, because we reported it. Not too long after that, another set of 30 were still killed in Plateau. And then we can go to Yelwata, 59, the official report, but some people are saying 100. Just this small I've mentioned is over 200. So I don't understand, because when you do that, you are desecrating the memory of these people. You know, one of the biggest crimes you can commit against anybody who's a member of a country is to deny they ever existed.
No, there's a lot in all that you have said. Sometimes and you know, as you said, the minister, respectable person, and he knows his onions and all. But at the end of the day, and this is where I usually just decrypt it, he's human, and every one of us is vulnerable to one untruth or the other, but that's not an excuse. He has a responsibility to give us the figures, just as you have talked about. However, Jeffrey, there are two things that are prime on my mind. Number one, I mean, starting with the abductions that you talked about in Kebbi, I did a bit of a research past few days to find out exactly how many girls have been abducted. What's the percentage of girls or the female gender that have been abducted over the past 10 years, 2014 till 11 years, 2014 till now? 60% of abductions are female. 60%, in fact, 61 point something percent are females. 39% boys. And just as you said, a good number are brought back, but some never come back. One thing that's every time we engage Dr. Samadi, a strategic leadership expert on this program, he talks about one thing: the value of one human life.
Whether Christian, Muslim,
it is immaterial. Whether you are a Christian, Muslim. But then there's also a bigger conversation that we're not having. Many of the locations being targeted, according to the that multidimensional poverty figures of 2022, many of those areas are poverty-stricken. The question you want to ask is, what is the message? What is the agenda? Is anyone even looking in that direction to find out, okay, what exactly is the agenda here? Third, Jeffrey, remember not more than one governor has come out to tell us that some reputable Nigerians, some of them even government officials, are part of all of this charade. Former President Jonathan said it, that even his own government had these elements. Now, to a large extent, we're not hearing as much of Boko Haram as we are now hearing of bandits. Has the ideology changed? Has the direction changed? Has the initiative changed? So when we are talking about national security, I'm not sure that we are looking in the right direction. And just as you said, we seem to be lying to ourselves. Here is my take on that one. To a large extent, every time we talk about national security, Jeffrey, we are talking about federal government, because the federal government controls the army, controls this, controls that. Granted. However, governors sit with DSS, with the military, with the police, from time to time, to get what they call intelligence reports. Now, one thing that I've also come to understand from these Kebbi incidents, and I think I asked the commissioner of Yobe State when we engaged him, that sometimes governors get filtered intelligence. If you soften the intelligence reports that the governor gets, the implication is that the urgency he is supposed to put into action may not be there. So let's ask ourselves the honest, raw, deep questions that we need to ask and tell ourselves that bland truth. How many, Jeffrey, how many security conferences or what have we had in the past how many years, and what has it produced? Countless questions. And that is just one of several issues. We are concerned about that one, the issues of insecurity rearing their heads again. We are also not unaware that the NARD is on strike. We are not unaware that ASU is threatening to down tools on Friday. And here we are, the opposition party, fighting it, being its own opposition. I can't deal.
It looks like every season there's a moment of collective conundrum. It looks like, and sometimes I feel it's a coordinated chaos. I don't know, but I just, as Nigerians, this is where we need to not give up. Everything suggests that you should just give up and you're just exhausted. It's exhausting. I think Nigerians should be given like a 1 year holiday, if it's possible.
To where?
To just take a break.
To where now?
I don't know. I'm just saying naively.
Sometimes
we're exhausted.
Sometimes we take that break. Guess when we take that break?
Tell me.
During elections.
Yes. So we don't
hear of insecurity during elections.
No, what happens is that as a build-up to we've always noticed that as the elections are coming, we notice there's a surge in insecurity.
Okay.
So maybe there's a correlation between trying to make the space ungovernable for whoever is the leading party. You know, it happened to Jonathan. It happened to almost every former president, Muhammadu Buhari, God rest his soul. You know, that's one of his biggest campaign promise, to fight insecurity. You know what he did the very first day? Mobilize guys to the northeast and all of that. But look at what happened under him, even as a general in the army. So
I'm just wondering why none of these ever came up under Obasanjo.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the boys were, you know, it was during his time this whole Boko Haram thing started in the very elementary level. As at that time, we didn't have Boko Haram per se. There was no Boko Haram, but it started, I think, towards the end of his first or second term, we had the very first, you know, those guys that were killed, I think in Borno, Yusuf or so, forgotten all the details. That's when it started. You know,
we've always had those issues.
No,
really.
we've had, but not that.
You remember there was this, I forgot the name of that, Nat'l. It was even under a military government at the time. So it was always just latent until recently.
So terrorism is a different dimension, and the things that have been happening around us has not really helped us. The fall of Gaddafi, all of this. So that's why it's not very exciting to stay docile and say, oh, it doesn't concern me, when countries around you are having issues. Because the bad elements in those countries, they'll find a way to run and go and carry out their activities where else. I just feel that there's something the West, I don't even want to say Trump, is looking at Nigeria for, to say, we need you to take stronger action against insurgency. All of this nomenclature about, oh, more Christians are killed than Muslims, or more Muslims are killed than Christians, is not, it doesn't make any sense.
Those are political statements. And I think there is something that we lost and we are not even paying attention to it, is that the local government is the first line of defense of any insecurity. It is the local government is where you have borders, is where you have border communities, it is where you have immigration, is where you have customs, it's where every Nigerian government official comes from. The question you want to ask is, what are we doing with that first line of security for our country all around the nation? You and I know, Jeffrey.
Ms. Ayo, sorry for cutting you, forget local government. Yeah, you and I. No. Why I'm saying that, you and I, okay, maybe in the future, going forward, they should probe. They will be pretending we don't know what happened to local government. The biggest problem of local government are the governors.
That's the point that I'm making.
I think you and I were on the show here when we covered the Rivers election.
Yes.
I told you I know who. When I was telling you I know who will win the election, I wasn't just telling you I know the party. I know the people that will win the election. So if not that the law says INEC must do the call, I would have, before the election, called every name that was later announced by INEC. Because these things are always predetermined. So when these guys are appendages of the governors, what do you want?
That's the point that I'm making. When you want to become governor or local government chairman or president or whatever, guess what you do? You hold a Bible or you hold a Quran and you swear. How come no one ever uses any of those other elements of our traditional anyway? But you swear that this is going to happen. Some people have actually said that none of them would ever dare to do it with any of the African deities because they know what is going to happen. Clear. But the point is, the local government. I grew up in a country, Jeffrey, where we didn't have this kind of stupid insecurity issues that we were having because the local government chairman and local government authorities were up and doing.
Can you even see the local government your own local government chairman when he's using tinted glasses and he's not accessible?
He has to even be living in that state in the first place.
They don't even live where you want them to live. But Ms. Ayo, this is just clear to tell you, Ayo, this is just clear to you that there's a lot of problem. But let's tell the people what we're doing today. First off, we'll go with national security. An expert in that area will be joining us. That will be the very first port of call, national security. We'll dovetail from there to talk about the opposition politics. How are they faring? That's a very important conversation. And of course, you know, the doctors, their strike has entered day 20 as we speak. What is the government doing? We'll bring you up to speed with all of that. But for now, we'll take a short break. We'll be back to bring you what the dailies are saying. Adeni Ifetayo is a public affairs analyst and publisher of Megastar magazine. He joins us from SA to help us break it down. Join us in just a moment. Welcome back. Mr. Adeni, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Good to see you. So let's get straight to business, and that will be New Telegraph. New Telegraph is leading with what is perhaps the biggest sentiment of everybody on the minds of all. Kidnappings, killings, confront this evil before it consumes us all. NLC tells FG. Confront this evil before it consumes us all. NLC tells federal government. The rioters as bandits attack church, kill pastor, one other, abduct many in Kwara days after Kebbi school girls' abduction. Tinubu vows justice, orders more security in crisis areas, postpones trip to South Africa, Angola. Worst of Boko Haram insurgency over. That's according to Governor Zulum. Attack on Kwara church condemnable. Abbas, Senator Kalu orders. Trump's narrative feeling more violence. FG, that's a very funny remark, by the way. What do you make of it?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's just like most time our leaders or government officials, when it comes to winning election or preparing for election, they put everything, inside the ring, preparation, these from world leader to local government leader and all of that. So when we are talking about security, I think it's something that they can, tackle once and for all, or minimize it to the lowest, barest minimum. And it involves you are talking about local government, because that's where the first point of call. We have over 774 local government in Nigeria. What does it stop the government if it is armored vehicle, 5 per local government? We are talking about state police. If you don't have more personnel, recruit more, train more. Even those local vigilantes, train and retrain them. I'm not sure we have a forest guard. Those people who can study and say, oh, there are movement of certain elements from this route. Let's follow them, because to kidnap 20 or 25 people is not that you are going to carry them on your shoulder. Those are the things they need to do. Invest more, and let's put an end to this madness. And just like NLC said that before it consumes us all, because if you are leaving it and say that playing politics with it is not the time to play politics with it. And I'm sure it's another thing that the government can do is also, when it comes to all those personnel, their allowances and all of that, it beat my imagination sometimes. Some police will be saying we've not received our salary. What is the encouragement? How do you want to allow such people to put their life, to put everything, into the job? And of course, another thing I felt that the government can do at this time around is surveillance. When it comes to surveillance, in school, and some lonely road and all of that. I was going through a road in Joburg yesterday when we were coming from airport, and the man was saying, see how this place, was lighted. And can you imagine traveling from Lagos to Ibadan in the night around 7 p.m., 8 p.m., everywhere is dark. Those are the places that some of these criminal elements can hide and perpetrate their evil. So those are the things they need to put in place. Secure some of our schools, whether public or private, because the issue of security is #1 priority of any government. If your border, if your state is not secure, there's no how investor will come. There's no how you have an enabling environment, for people to thrive. They need to do more, and they need to give it all, just like they normally give everything when it comes to the election.
All right, well, there are several other issues on the front page of that newspaper, but the Leadership newspaper has pretty much the same story this morning. And the lead story, rescue Kebbi schoolgirls, others now. Labour Congress Sultan tell government. Shetima will bring back abducted girls. Honors Lane teacher. Nigerians should speak with one voice to confront common enemy. That's what you have on the front page of the paper this morning. But there is also this interesting one on the front page, right under the nameplate of the Leadership newspaper. Low demand limits power generation to 5,000 megawatts. That's according to the Minister of Power. Low demand limits power generation to 5,000 megawatts. What do you make of that, sir?
No, that cannot be true. How can you say low demand limit power generation?
But it's the Minister of Power that said it.
You know, Nigeria have come to realize that most time there's what they call a BYI, that's you bring your infrastructure. We are the one that provide generator, we are the one that will dig borehole, you are the one who provide water, you know, make your environment friendly and conducive. So saying that, I don't think the minister is economical with the truth, because Nigerian, we know we all need power, and if you provide a service, I'm sure Nigerian, they can pay for it. You know, they came up with Band A, Band B, and Band C. How can you, like someone who is paying 20,000 now, you made him to be paying 300,000? You know, and it's not as if the minimum wage has been triple or quadruple that they can afford, and while other things have been need to be taken care of. I think what they need to do is to do more and allow independent power generation as well to thrive. Because when Nigeria, we need power to power our home. Nigeria need power to power their businesses, environment, and all of that. It's not. Yesterday I asked them here, South Africa is doing close to 40,000 megawatts, and we are barely doing 5,000 megawatt. You are saying because of the low demand. I think the minister is not. I don't know how he came about that assertion. I don't think he's been truthful with that assertion.
Well, as you said, as you rightly said, perhaps, they've talked about, I know they've mentioned the fact that because of how expensive power is, people are resorting to alternative power, from solar to all other alternatives that people, I know people who literally don't depend on
they should provide solar as well.
Anymore.
They should provide, most of them, they travel abroad, there's wind energy, there's solar energy. Those are the things you bring from here, from there, so that you subsidize power. It's not, that's not a tenable excuse for me anyway.
I'm happy you're not giving the minister 1 second to breathe. we have, in fact, somebody made a joke and said, I think the minister was somewhere, I think he had power banks, so the person made a joke out of it and said, a minister of power is using power bank. So I think it's one of the most difficult ministries to put anybody in charge. So it's a very difficult, it has defied literally every government. So if you become a federal cabinet member and you're a minister and you're given that power ministry, you better pray to God. We have 13,000 installed capacity according to the expert, but we're ranging between 4, sometimes 3 to 4, down to maybe 6 at max in terms of our generation. And we need this electricity. Now it's super expensive. So I don't know whether this is a simple way to begin to tell us that, they are still subsidizing electricity.
What's even interesting that I wish the minister had also spoken to in this report, Mr. Adisa, is that, REA has been very, very active.
Yes, REA has been active.
Extremely, very, very active.
I can attest to that. We've had him, and we brought proof.
I've also been privileged to, do some, read some documentary scripts for them, and the kind of things that they do in the partnerships. Virtually every state is engaging. REA is engaging with virtually every state. So I'm not sure.
Anything that is off-grid is REA.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's start with the leadership before we go to another paper. At the very top, Tinubu postpones G20 trip over Kebbi Kwara attacks. Tinubu postpones G20 trip over Kebbi and Kwara attacks. So this is commendable, because sometimes some of our leaders act aloof to what is happening. But what do you make of this decision of the president?
Yes, it is commendable. Like Yoruba will say that you can't have your house or your roof burning and you said you want to go and take shelter elsewhere. That means the whole house would be, burned to ashes. Of course, I felt that it will have been an opportunity to make a statement here, but regardless, you need to take care of your own house first, and that is what he has done is commendable. And I don't just want him to just stop there. Yes, he has sent Shetima to Kebbi State and asking the security personnel, to bring back our girls. I just hope they do that and give them what is necessary to bring all those things. What I'm still saying, especially in that part of northern area, is just for government. We need some of what they call. I don't think we have forest guard. Those people who can read, forest, who can secure our forest. Because what we heard is that once they kidnap them, they dash into the bush or the forest, and you can tell for people to move 25 personnel, is not just something that they will just disappear from one point A to point B.
If I can quickly punctuate,
so
we
please,
actually
they can do more. They can do more anyway.
We have a forest service. There's the Nigeria Forest Security Service, and part of their job mostly is to work in the forests and all those, hunting areas. So
I think they just set them up recently.
Yes.
Yes, it's
so,
just a recent move.
But how well funded are they? And then there is also that question that bedeviled, if I can use that word, the Buhari government. And one of the issues that was prominent in those days, Mr. Efeta, if you would remember, was that we should follow the money. We should find out where the terrorism financing is coming from. You see some of the videos showing these, bandits and all shooting guns, and you're wondering, who is funding them?
Yes.
So, do you think we're even approaching this whole insecurity issue the way we should?
No, I'm not sure. There's still so many things we are lagging behind. Just like you rightly said, I watched some video, the kind of weapons some of these bandits are bearing, and how did it get to their hands, how many weapons are coming in from our border, which one is going to which direction. They can follow them. I thought with BVN or whatever it is, they'll be able to, monitor some transaction, because sometimes when you look at some of these bandits, they are never changing. Not as if they change in status and all of that. Like they said, that some people, they are working for some element, even in the government as well. So those are the things that government can still do. I know it's not everything they share for public consumption, but they should be able to shame even their sponsor, expose them regardless of the party, or not because this one at the camp to my party, I need to shield him from, being exposed or forgive, or they will say your sins are forgiven once you come to our party. No, because let's take the bull by the horn. If not, just like NSC says, if we don't, tackle or tame this devil before he consumes us all, just because it has happened to your neighbor doesn't mean the care is not taken, the can happens to you.
Mr. Fetayo, somebody said, after God is government, and there's a strong truth to that. I believe, it's just saying in terms of who has information. Can't compare anyone with God, by the way. But anything that is succeeding is government that allows it. Because if you know the resources at the disposal of government, the experts will be here to tell you, they know where these Boko Haram are. They know their sponsors, but we don't know why they are not acting. So it is a lie to feel that we don't know where they are. They know where they are. They know the sponsors. But action, government has more information than we do. So perhaps they'll be able to explain. Before I leave the leadership, somewhere at the right corner, the bottom says, I have right to revoke, reallocate land. That's according to Wiki. I don't know when he said this, but this Wiki and land matters. I don't know when it's ever end, but let's go to the Guardian newspaper.
Yeah, if you have right to revoke and
yeah, go ahead, please.
Locate land. That means that land is meant for public use.
Yes,
that land is meant for public use, not when you revoke a land and allocate it to friends or cronies or someone who is political sons or daughter, whatever it is. If it's not for public use, you don't have right to revoke it. It is meant for maybe for roads, hospital, anything that will be beneficial to the community or to the public, and that's when you have right to revoke it. Not a political vendetta or let me take a revenge or vengeance and all of that. You know, there are just so many things in his hand, and well, I'm sure Mr. Okay, don't let me decide. I'm in the same political party anyway.
Anyway, I'm happy you put it right, because sometimes I feel that we need democracy 101 for our leaders. Sometimes when I hear them talk, I just say, this man or this woman or this individual or these individuals, they don't understand what democracy is. So, as you've rightly said, if it's not for public good, because some of them feel that because they have power to allocate, revoke, you can just wake up and do anything you like because the Constitution says you can do so. No, read the Constitution properly. We can even go, there's one time there was a debate as to whether you can disagree with the decision of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has spoken. You don't, that's a lie. Even among the judges, they have dissenting judgment. That means they disagree with themselves. What you do, you can disagree with the Supreme Court, but you abide by the decision of that court.
Yeah. Exactly.
So all of this, anyway, let's not. The Guardian newspaper, outrage over rising abductions, attacks as army rallies 24,000 recruits. Outrage over rising abductions, attacks as army rallies 24,000 recruits. Mr. Fetayo, the numbers may be increasing soon. I remember the president during his campaign season was still waiting. He was talking about creating demand and supply using mass recruitment of the military. I remember that. Maybe I'll find that statement. But
yes.
You remember I said
50 million.
We're still waiting for that to happen. We have not seen it happen. So
maybe he meant 50,000. But now
whatever number he gave, President Tinubu has not fulfilled the promise he made yet. Maybe he will.
Okay.
Because the way he said it, it looks like, why? Let's gather people. Let's recruit as many people and create demand and supply through that. That's when he said, why gone all those. Anyway, what do you make of this increased number?
Yeah, it's a good one. Hopefully, if they will follow through, just like you said, so many promises were made leading to election, even when they are sworn in and all of that, and many of them are yet to be actualized or realized as it were. So it's not today we've been talking about it. Sometimes when you compare how many police force that we have, you know, and compare or you divide by the total number of the population that we have, you think that it's just grossly inadequate. We've been talking about state police, let them do massive recruitment. You know, it will also create job opportunity. You understand? So not just only the army alone, the civil defense corps, the police. We need more men so that they can secure our state, secure local government, state, and of course our border. And so that some of these elements that they said, some of them are foreign nationals, they come in and do whatever it is they want to do, so that they can keep our country safe and secure. Is a good, but I also hope that they won't just do the recruitment in paper. Maybe the personnel that we made it might not be more than 4,000, 20,000, because some of them they use it to sort out. I don't want to say I met a lady in UK who is still receiving some salary, and she has left a particular state in the last 3 or 4 years. And those are the things, that's when ghost workers come to be, ghost police officer, ghost army officer, and all of that. But they should just make it realistic. When we say 24,000, let it be 24,000, because there will always be a ripple effect for what they can do.
Well, the issue of ghost worker that you mentioned is a very, very critical one. And I think some people, I don't know if you agree with me, but some people in the civil service who are colluding to make those things happen should be brought to book, because it is a very unpatriotic thing to do. But you know, in the recruitment of 24,000 recruits have been rallied into the army. Let's hope that other services within the military will also get the same treatment. Actually, maybe we can hope, because there is more money now being made. For instance, on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper, right at the top right corner of the Guardian newspaper, FG states LG's share 2.09 trillion naira as October revenue. That is there one question that I'd want to ask about that is, who is querying the spending? Do you think we need an accountability framework to ensure that if you don't justify how you spent one, you don't get another?
No, not at all, because it's enshrined in the Constitution. You must get an allocation that if you don't spend. The thing is that it's not just for them to stop. Federal government will say we've shared this, state has collected this. How much, who got what? Even the local government, according to Constitution, that their money should be dispensed to them directly. And it's high time that people begin to ask, oh, this month, last month you got 500 million naira. What have you been able to use it for? What are the impact? What are you doing? Let's see the blueprint. You know, when you show accountability and transparency, you know, the citizen or your community, they will trust you. But I stand to be corrected. I think the Kwara State, after they passed that judgment that the money of a local government should be released to them, the Argon there, they came together and said, no, pay our money to the state government. Just like you said, Jeff said that someone will pen down their name, you become the chairman of this local government, you become that chairman of that local government. So it becomes a situation of who pay the piper dictates the tune. You understand? But I think they need to be transparent about it, and even the state government publish what this local government got. This is what we are using, you know, our own allocation and even internally generated revenue. Oh, last month we've been able to generate 200 million. We've used 100 million for an overhead and salary. We've been able to pay this contractor this, and that will give sense of belonging, you know, to the citizen, to those who are being led, you know, in that local government or in that state, that, oh, we know where our money is going to. They've not been transparent with all these monthly allocation and whatever internally generated revenue. They can do more, and that will build the confidence of even the taxpayer, because they know where their money is going to, and they'll be willing to pay tax.
Mr. Adeni Fetayo, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here once again.
Absolutely. We'll take a break. When we come back, Mr. Kabiru Adamu, MDC of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, will be joining us to break down this resurgence of mass abduction and attacks from an expert's point of view. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much for staying with us this morning on the program. Let's talk about national security. And of course, Mr. Kabiru Adamu has been about this for quite a while, and he's here again to share some perspectives. He's MD, CEO, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. He joins us virtually. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. Adamu. It's another one. Unfortunately, every time these things happen, we hope we don't hear any more of it, but here we are. What are the issues that you think could be responsible for this resurgence?
Thank you, and good morning. The issues have not changed significantly. They are rooted in politics, both local and international, what we would describe as geopolitics. And then you have the economic factors. You also have the environmental factors, as well as the social factors. So depending on the type of threat element, which by the way I must say are spread, and for me that's really the most disturbing element. You have a multitude of threat factors that are almost moving at the same time. In the Northeast, you have the insurgency, the terrorism. In the North Central, you have the farmer-herder violence that has metastasized into an identity-based conflict, a violent criminality that is kind of taking its own direction. And then, of course, in the southeast, you have also its own type of violent criminality. In the south, you have violent criminality as well, including cult violence. In the southwest, the same thing. So the country is facing a multitude of security challenges driven by those factors that I've mentioned. It also appears, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, that Nigeria is under siege, both from local as well as international elements.
Just a second, Mr. Adamu, just 1 second. Jeffrey said at the beginning of the show that we are lying to ourselves. And we need to look ourselves in the eye and tell ourselves brutal truths, he said. Now, when you say that these issues of insecurity are rooted in politics, that is, or rather, that sounds a bit disturbing. And I think if Jeffrey's word is to be brought into that, is it that the politicians are papering over cracks, or just as we said, deceiving themselves? Also remember that a top military official in Nigeria, in the very recently, said that the military or the security agencies would do what the security agencies should do, but the politicians should do what the politicians should do. Otherwise, if they're both not singing from the same hymn sheet, then we are not going to be dealing with the issue. So are we deceiving ourselves when we know, if we know, that the issues are rooted in politics and we seem to be looking for other reasons?
Yes, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. We are in a state of, lack of actually reality. We do not realize that this issue, if we do not address it, it's going to swallow us up. As it were, under the social contract, we have handed over the responsibility of dealing with the problem to our political class. But sadly, for some odd reasons, our political class are not handling the matter with the appropriate attention that it deserves. Yesterday, one of the most senior aides to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu released a statement purportedly on behalf of the president. And if you take time to look at that statement, there were two aspects of that statement that bothered me as a security practitioner. In that statement, the president mentioned that there was intelligence before the attack in Kebbi, and that the attack still occurred. The president also admitted to being depressed. Now, maybe it's a misuse of words, or maybe it's the reality, as it were, that the president is actually depressed. And maybe, yes, there was intelligence. But how can we have a president that is depressed in the manner, and then yet he's, we're going on in the manner that we're going? How come no person has been held accountable for the series of lapses in our security, in national security occurrences? How come, for instance, after the incident in Birnin Kebbi, if the president is admitting in writing that there was intelligence, how come nobody was held accountable? And if the executive arm is failing to act, how come all we're hearing from the number 3 citizen in the country, which is the president and the chairman of the National Assembly, is that there is crime in every part of the world, and yet they are not using the legislative instruments at their disposal to put pressure on the executive arm of government? And that pressure can range from a motion up to an attempt to impeach the president. Those are instruments that are available to them, but yet we are not seeing them exercise those instruments. So yes, the political class is playing with this matter, and if we do not wake up to address it, I'm sorry to say it's going to swallow us.
I'm happy you said it as it should be said, because it's just difficult, because I've interviewed you so many times, a lot of us have interviewed you and your colleagues who are in the intelligence community. And one of the things we heard from all of you is the fact that these people are not in the sky. They know where these terrorists are. You guys know, the government knows. Of course, there's the element of geopolitics and the intricacies of, the dynamics that can be quite complex. But the basics are the basics. I think for the people that are being killed, especially the Christian community that is saying this is persecution, this is genocide, wherever that help comes from is inconsequential to them. Whether it's a mischaracterization on their own, but that is their reality, we can't dismiss it. But where I'm going to with that question now is, if it seems like because we're not sure of the broader intention of the West, and based on trend, we're worried about whatever it is they are coming to do in terms of intervention. So what exactly is going to happen in terms of action beyond the lobbying that we're seeing? Action, because while they are in the UF, I think today the subcommittee is going to sit and then submit to POTUS, the White House, on this genocide issue. Besides the lobbying, because while all of that is going on, a general has been killed, the girls have been kidnapped, another attack has happened. It looks like nothing is happening, although we know something is happening, but it appears it's not enough at all. What is the West or anybody who is an onlooker expecting from us in terms of action? I also read somewhere that one ISWAP leader also, I think I heard it on The Nation, has been sentenced to 20 years. I was like, an ideological terrorist sentence to 20 years, are we joking? So what do you think has to happen?
In simple terms, a roadmap that identifies in very clear terms how this security challenge is going to be addressed. Anything short of that will not be acceptable to the United States of America. And for me, the litmus test of the efficacy of the visit by the federal government delegation is whether they would be allowed to, into the hearing that the Congress is holding today on Resolution 860. If they are not allowed into that hearing, then honestly, it's a waste of government resources, taxpayers' money that they're in the U.S. Because, I mean, what's the point of going if they cannot even attend a congressional hearing on the same issue that has taken them there? So we wait to see. Luckily, the U.S. is behind us in time, and so probably in the next few hours, we'll be able to see whether that delegation will be allowed into the Congress to now give their own version and their own perspective. Sadly, I'm not expecting much, Jeffrey, in the sense that, number one, our National Security Council has not held. After that threat by President Trump, the most powerful military country in the world threatened us that they are going to attack us, and yet we've not had our National Security Council seat. Now, I'm sure probably the listener will say Nigeria is a small country, there's nothing we can do if the US decides to attack us. But no, that cannot be. We're a sovereign country. We've got enough muscle, both diplomatically and then in terms of numbers. That council is the highest security council that we have. It should have sat. It should, at that meeting, the president and his aides, especially the cabinet ministers, should have presented to the council that the roadmap to say this is the security challenge that we have, and this is what we are going to do to solve that security challenge. In my organization, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, we know that in the first 10 months of this year, 9,000 people have been killed, about 9,400. That roadmap should be able to show clearly that in the next 2-3 months, those numbers are going to be reduced. At the moment, we're having an average of about 600 to 700 people killed every month. That roadmap should show how that number should be reduced and eventually completely eliminated. I know that's utopian to think that killings will stop in the country. It's utopian, so I'm not even going there. We can reduce it to an acceptable minimum. I mean, I know most people will not want to hear this, but that's the reality. I'm not in that utopian realism where I would say we'll eliminate it. But that roadmap should be able to show a reduction that is acceptable. That acceptable reduction should be in the realm of about 100 or thereabout. Now, anything short of this, we're just kidding around. And sadly, like I said, the National Security Council has not met. The relevant players, the members of that National Security Council, we've not heard their voices, Jeffrey. The voices we're hearing is the Minister of Information and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And unfortunately, the voices are not echoing the kind of messaging that we would like to hear. We know what the challenges are. Like you rightly said, we know the basis where these bad guys are. We know the non-state actors. We know who is driving them. We have enough agencies in this country. Anyone who is kidding himself, we have up to 42 agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies in government to address this challenge. Now, that roadmap should present a mind map of that 42, showing clearly where we are and then the destination to take us to a point that is acceptable to us as Nigerians. And let's not forget that we're under the, as it were, the searchlight of the world. The biggest military power in the world has cast its searchlight on us. Now, irrespective of the objective of that searchlight, what we need to do as a country is to make sure we channel our resources to a point where we're able to manage the security challenge. Unfortunately, those ingredients for managing the security challenge are not being harnessed in the manner that it should. Like I said, the National Security Council, our intelligence community, named them. Yes, there is a committee that has been set up by the federal government. A delegation of that committee is in the US, but those are not the constitutional platforms that have been provided for managing national security issues.
Well, I want to ask you a double-barreled question. One of them based on the issues that you have raised, and the other one of the people in government, at the top level of government, who are also speaking. From what you said, how much of what we're talking about concerning this insecurity is politics, and how much of it is really insecurity issues? How much is politics? If there is anything about it that needs to be addressed politically, either by the president or the governors or the various localities, it'll be good to hear you say it. The second thing is second question that I'd like to ask you is the statement credited to the secretary to the government of the Federation, where he says recent pronouncements from the United States have inadvertently emboldened opportunistic violent groups seeking to exploit international narratives and make bold statements by attacking soft targets. Do you agree?
The first part of the question, how much is politics? Politics is a driver as well as also an enabler. Politicians have weaponized insecurity to achieve political objectives. There is enough facts to support this. On the other hand, politicians are also responsible for addressing the national security challenge. They are the ones who appoint the individuals. As an example, the president will appoint most of the individuals that are heading the about 42 agencies that are involved in national security, the ministers, the heads of the MDAs, and the others. And then, of course, the National Assembly would most likely confirm those appointments. And then beyond that, the measurement of their performance is also handled by politicians, political appointees, most times. So invariably, the responsibility for either holding them accountable or for even managing them lies with the politicians. And at the moment, what we are seeing is, like I said, on the one hand, the politicians weaponizing violence, weaponizing insecurity to achieve political objectives. On the one hand, you have the ruling party trying to show progress. We've seen different statements coming out from various appointees saying that there has been progress or lack of it, when the reality, unfortunately, is the opposite. And then on the other hand, you have the opposition politicians, and sometimes even politicians within the ruling party who would want to show the absence of progress in order to achieve a political objective. There is also enough evidence, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, of instances where the same politicians trigger occurrences, security occurrences, in order to achieve a political objective. So again, they are enablers and they are also drivers. And like I said, they also have the responsibility for sanctioning and holding to accountable the officials. And where they fail to do that, which is where we are at the moment, lapses have occurred and the politicians are failing to hold the appointees accountable. If the president can admit in writing that there was intelligence before the incident in Kebbi, the logical thing to have done was to hold whoever was shared that intelligence with, and that person failed to act responsible. We haven't seen that yet. And the other side of it is we haven't seen the National Assembly also acting in the manner to say, okay, executives, you've not done X, Y, Z. This is our own legislative instrument for holding you accountable. A failure from all sides. At the level of the governors, we're also seeing massive failures. And I say this because I've traveled of almost all the states. I've looked at the kind of structures that they have for managing security, and most of them, honestly, apart from probably Lagos State, there is none that I would say has what can pass as a effective public security system in place. Most times what they do is to give money to the federal security agencies, sometimes buy vehicles, appoint individuals as either commissioners or special advisors on security, and it stops there. That marriage between personnel, technology, and systems, where we're not seeing it at the state level, in spite of the huge money that they've been getting for security over the years. So that's one part of the question. Kindly remind me of the second question.
The statements of the SGF about the pronouncements of the U.S. government emboldening violent groups to take undue advantage.
Yes, which is really unfortunate. It also speaks to this lack of synergy in government officials. We have sent a delegation to the U.S. to go and sit with the United States, and then on the one hand, you have a very senior ranking official now saying that the U.S. is responsible for triggering security occurrences. Now, that may be true. Opportunistic, criminals, groups may have taken advantage of that to, show, or perhaps even is being instigated to support a narrative. That does not matter. What is important is a sort of synergy of efforts. If we are engaging with a partner, should we also at the same time be accusing that partner of inciting violence? What would that mean in terms of how the partner would respond to us? Because let's not forget, the United States is an ally in Nigeria. Our diplomatic relations at the moment is extremely solid, even though, yes, there is that spat. But they have representation here. We have representation in the U.S. At various levels. There is a binational commission that sits. There is a defense partnership, and so many components. So again, I'm not sure why the SGF will make that pronouncement. It may be true. It's not in my place to judge that. What we have seen, and for me that's the most unfortunate development, is this division between the two major religions. You saw Khan over the weekend in Jos issuing a statement and categorically confirming, as it were, that there is Christian genocide. Before then, we've seen the Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs issuing a statement that there is no Christian genocide. And that, for me, is the greatest danger that we're faced with at this moment. Social cohesion, social integration is gradually degenerating. And what are we doing as a country to close that gap, bring the two sides together? Yes, the president has met with the leadership of the two religions, but we haven't seen any action in terms of the two of them coming together and issuing a statement. NIREC is there. I'm not sure what NIREC is doing. I'm hoping that NIREC would act in a manner to bring the two sides together, because if we are not united, again, I want to say this, I've said it before, this thing can envelope us. We're playing with it in kid gloves, but believe me, it's big enough to envelope us.
We pray it never gets there, but as you said, action has to stop it, not just words. There's another bit I want you to speak to, which are the men on the ground. Why we say they're not doing enough, but the morale of these men who are at the front lines every day, and sometimes we see videos and filters of them being killed, or some of them in their struggle. Some of them have not seen their families for months and maybe years, and all of this. I want you to speak to that bit, because it looks like the men in the office, I don't know, maybe they don't understand, or they may understand, they had their own time of those processes. What can we do collectively to help boost the morale of our soldiers who are constantly at the front lines to ensure this doesn't swallow us? That's on one hand. The other hand, the president made an appeal that community support is required. But are you seeing enough from government for any community to collaborate with government in the first place?
Yes, so the first question regarding morale. The amazing thing, Jeffrey, is that the Renewed Hope agenda actually has that element. One of the imperatives contained in that agenda, which is a mandate now. The president has our mandate, so it's no longer as it were, and it's left for him to to implement it. unfortunately, we're not seeing that implementation in the manner that it should be. And it's not, he has given the directives. The various agencies, ministries that have responsibility for doing that should have been the one. And again, remember what I said earlier on, it's the responsibility of the politicians to hold these individuals accountable. Unfortunately, for some odd reasons, we're not seeing that. But the policy should have been developed. A lot is being done. If you look at the various security agencies, the police is doing a lot in terms of the welfare of its personnel, their housing, name them, are being attended to. The military is all doing that. But that holistic approach, rotation that you identified, rotation of personnel, is significant. You cannot keep personnel in a theater of war for sometimes 4 years, 5 years. It affects their mindset. The killing of the general, Brigadier General Uba, in Borno State, that's something that would hugely affect their morale. What are we doing as a country to ensure that these things are managed in a manner that reduces the effect on those personnel? Unfortunately, we're not doing enough. We need to do more. And again, I want to say this is a responsibility for both the executive arm as well as the National Assembly. They are the ones who are they pass the budget, they make sure that through their oversight functions, that actions and activities are being followed in the manner that they are contained in the budget. So these two arms must improve in terms of how they are holding accountable the various players within the security sector. At the moment, the morale of our troops is extremely low, and we cannot win a war with this very low morale of our troops. And this cuts across all the security agencies. With regards to the second part of your question, communities, how they need to come in. Consistently, one of the factors that emerges when one is reviewing reports from our security agencies is the lack of acceptance by our communities. And the simple reason why we're failing to have that acceptance is because the ethos of our security function does not show to our communities that they're there to protect them. If the communities feel that our security agencies are there to protect them, then they will support us the more. I was listening to a senator actually on your station, being interviewed by one of your colleagues yesterday, and he told in very clear terms how he feels disappointed. He feels he has failed his community because the promise he made to them when he was campaigning is to provide security for them. Now bandits have gone, they have abducted their kids, 25 of them. And then we have information to suggest that there was intelligence before that incident occurred.
Is there ever, my apologies, is there ever a time, Mr. Adamo, where we don't have intelligence? We always have intelligence. The problem is what we do with it. Do you also agree with those who say, for instance, that sometimes governors, which you spoke to earlier, get filtered intelligence, and consequently they act, the sense of urgency they have about the insecurity issue is based on how serious or how trivial the filtered intelligence the governor gets is? Is it true that governors get intelligence that is filtered so that it's not looking too serious to them?
So the strength of a political office holder, and this comes from the federal down to the subnational, is determined by his ability to influence communities within his domain. So he would have to have early warning signals. He would have individuals who kind of report to him. So yes, he does get intelligence. But then the corollary to that is what control does he have over the paraphernalia of state to action the activities of that paraphernalia? As a governor, would he be able to, for instance, direct the military or the police to take action? And again, it's sad that we're not even discussing the role of the police. which is one of the misnomer in the current arrangement that we have. All we do is the military. But remember, I told you there are 42 organizations that have responsibility for security. We've singled out the military and given them that responsibility. So yes, the governor may have access to intelligence, but don't also forget that outside of the governor, you have federal security organizations that are deployed across the 774 local governments. Just to give you an example, the SSS, they would have a personnel in at least all the 774 local governments, even if they don't have in all the wards, but he would have collection capabilities within those wards, and you'll be able to get intelligence. So there are different levels. There are traditional rulers, there are market women, there is the media, there are players like us in the private sector, multitude, layers of intelligence that are available to the government. So I agree that it's not an absence of intelligence. The concept that comes to my mind is political expedience.
Perhaps the issue here,
politically expedient?
Perhaps the issue here, Mr. Adam, one of the issues here is that collaboration, whether or not it is happening among the security agencies, I guess one will have to tell, because recent face-off, suggests some conversations need to be had that are serious. But let's go to some data. Earlier, Jeffrey and I were bantering about the fact that, on the one hand, from available analysis, about 61% of all abductions over the past 10 years, particularly from schools, 61% of them are female. You are into the data space, so you may want to help us on that. The second thing is that most of the insecurity issues, particularly that have to do with abductions in schools, took place more in the north, in the northern part of the country, than the southern part. Is there any agenda being played out from these, peripheral observations?
So to the first part, we haven't as yet disaggregated the data to determine the gender that is most affected. But yes, from just a surface kind of overview, it would seem to me that most of the victims, the targeted schools, are female schools. And part of the reason, I think the threat actors are banking on the cultural factors around females. Sentiments are higher if it's females. They're able to get, don't forget that part of the reason why they do this is to get international attention, to also raise their profile. There is also the theory that, the higher, for instance, they marry, quote unquote, the women, then their profile is also raised within their cultural settings, even though these marriages are forced, and of course without the consent of the parents and all of that. So which speaks to another element of the conversation. So this may be some of the reasons why they're targeting schools. With regards to the second part of your question, the prevalence of the occurrences within the northern part of the country. Jeffrey, in my organization, even though we're still kind of building, this, we documented 80 non-state armed groups that are active in Nigeria. I repeat, 80 non-state armed groups that are active in Nigeria. Out of these 80, 80% of them are domiciled in the northern part of the country. So it's not, you don't need any arithmetics to understand why the occurrences are higher in the northern part of the country. The vulnerabilities are higher, the threat elements are higher, they are more, and then of course because of the land mass, the spread and deployment of security forces is thinner, and the farther you go into the rural areas, the thinner the spread of these security agencies. And this is not to say that the federal government or the state government has not attempted certain actions to reduce the vulnerability. We know, for instance, that schools were shot, mega schools were built in places like Borno. Kaduna has done the same thing, Katsina. So to name them, almost all the states have attempted to do one or two things to reduce the vulnerabilities. But the vulnerabilities, in simple terms, are higher in the northern part of the country. The threat factors are also higher. I've just given the numbers. And then the intention of the threat factors is also tilted more towards targeting soft targets, mosques, churches, schools, individuals in markets, soft targets. It's also higher in the northern part of the country.
All right. Dr. Adamo, 1 second before I let you go. When I heard that the ISWAP leader was sentenced to 20 years, an ideological terrorist, you know, the engagement had different from force, economic, all kinds of shade. But ideological terrorists should not have anything less than a death sentence in any sane view. What do you make of that?
I was surprised like you, but then again, I mean, I don't want to question the wisdom of our learned, fathers, the judges who took that decision. But as an expert who has studied terrorism, I find it really surprising that that individual came up with just 20 years. Although we must also acknowledge that there are multitude of charges that individual is facing. So we do, yet I haven't studied the judgment yet to know which of those charges led to those 20 years. But let's just remember, put this in context. This is an individual who is accused of having been responsible for the attack on the police command, that several of our police officers died. The farm center attack in Kano, the mosque attack in Kano, and several other attacks that have led to deaths of several Nigerians, including government officials, the police as an example, the customs, and then he's getting 20 years. Again, we need to know which of the charges led to those 20 years. Is that the completion of the ruling, or there are other charges that are yet to be ruled upon? So I think those are the issues that I'm waiting for. I actually just came back from a journey, so I will need to study the case to understand the judgment, rather, to understand which of the charges led to those 20 years. But if it's really the case of terrorism and the bombing of those places I've mentioned, then it's unfortunate.
I totally agree with you. We'll get to see the charge, the CTC, to know what got what. But we want to know what happened with the charges that had to do with killing of people and how many years it's gotten. But we must thank you, Kabiru Adamo, MDC of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And like I said, we better act to deal with this issue before it envelopes us.
The word is enough. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Bolaji Abdullahi. He is the spokesperson of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. Join us in just a moment. Welcome back. Let's bring in our guest, Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, former Minister of Youth, as well as he has many caps to his name. I don't want to go through the long list. He's been there, done that. But as the National Publicity Secretary of the ADC, the Coalition of Opposition Political Parties. Let's talk about opposition parties for a moment. Mr. Abdullahi, thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Good to see you again.
I know we want to talk about opposition politics, but, you know, the whole idea of politicking is to gain power to govern. Now we have a big governance issue on our hands, which we'd like your comment on. We've been designated, I'm sure you've made comments about that, while we're trying to lobby and get all this pushback and manage framing and narrative and argument about who is killed more than the other person. 25 girls have been abducted. While we're trying to get over that, Kwara attack happened around a church and a ruku in that local government in Kwara State. What do you make of all of this, that is playing out recently?
Well, I thank you very much, and I'm glad with the way you've started the conversation, because one of the critical challenges that we are faced with, in addition to the overall security situation in the country, which is becoming almost unbearable, is that this government is focused too much on politics, that it is not helping them in a way that is not helpful, in a way that obstructs their capacity to understand the enormity of the challenge that we are faced with. When the issue of when Donald Trump made that statement about Christian genocide going on in Nigeria, all of us dismissed it, that there was no such thing as Christian genocide. We knew that there were genocidal killing going on in Nigeria. What we did not agree with is labeling it as Christian genocide. But what you'll expect is that in a serious government, this government that is allowed to its responsibility is to ask a very critical question. What opportunity or what new threat does this present to the security challenges in the country? But instead of asking that question, they've been very defensive, trying to prove that they are doing everything that they can, trying to claim that, claiming that one religious group has actually been killed more than the other political group and all that. Because what we are seeing now is like the Christian genocide narrative is becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like those terrorists, those bandits killing people can actually sense an opportunity, and that they can actually bring about that narrative, actualize that narrative, or give life or credence to that narrative. And that's what you see play out. You can see in the increasing wave of attack that has happened since that incident happened. So it appears that these bandits can sense the vulnerability of the Nigerian state. They appear to have realized today that they can do whatever they like. They can kill whoever they like, and nothing is going to happen to them. And that's why you can see, since that conversation happened, we've seen so many attacks. I mean, the one you referenced, the one in my state, Kwara State, the one in Eruku, one of the most peaceful part of the state, is particularly heart-rending. Who will see a picture of a woman, of an old woman running away without knowing where she was going and being mowed down by bullets, and not realize that this country has got to a stage where we can begin to describe Nigeria as a killing field? So, but what is this government's reaction to all this? I'm sure that we're going to have this conversation, but what is clear is that you don't see this government addressing the situation as it should be addressed. You don't see a sense of commitment, a sense of urgency. They make these dramatic moves. Oh, the president has cancelled his trip because he wants to focus on what is going on in the country. Or he has sent the vice president to go and commiserate to the families of the abducted girls. Or the president issued a statement 72 hours after the girls were abducted, saying he was depressed. He didn't even mention Kwara, he didn't mention Eruku, he mentioned... So all this shows that this government, to them, everything is about politics, everything is about optics. And as long as it doesn't disturb their politics, they are not interested. So all these things that you see they are doing is just theater, just political theater. There you don't see any deliberate intention to deal with this problem. I don't think they have the capacity to deal with it. I think they have given up, and I think the bandits can sense it, that they have a real opportunity to continue to do what they are doing across the country.
Well, isn't it also pointing to the role or responsibility, better put, of the opposition parties to do the needful? Just this, here's what I'm talking about. These issues are not new. They've been with us for a long time. In fact, Jeffrey was reminding me that these issues date back into the first presidency in this Fourth Republic. Excuse me. So we have a responsibility, not just as people in government, but even as people out of government, as opposition parties. What are the alternatives that we should be talking about? Well, if we say the government is not doing what it needs to do, what should the opposition parties be doing to pressure, just a second, to pressure the government to do what is needful? Because it will seem like, just as, you know, the conversation we're having, opposition parties themselves seems to be focused more on politicking than offering alternative views.
No, I mean, you make it sound as if the alternative to alternative view is politicking and vice versa. That's not the case. Opposition political parties in a democracy can only do what we are doing, putting pressure on government, calling government out, and telling government what we think can be done differently. Yes, you said that this problem did not start with the Bola Tinubu administration. I agree with you completely. Everyone knows that. But the difference with this administration is that they don't have the humility to admit that whatever they have tried to do since coming to office regarding to insecurity has not worked, and that the situation is getting worse under their watch. You see, it's that humility to admit and therefore ask for help. And that is why you see some, we don't support it, but that's what is driving some Nigerians to a desperate situation where they are supporting Donald Trump invasion of Nigeria, because they don't think that this government is capable of doing anything or even have the desire or the will to do anything about the problem. When you find yourself in a situation like this, because we're in a life and death situation, every Nigerian today is imperiled. So what do is, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of any other consideration, you create and you realize that you are in an emergency situation and bring on board. You just spoke with Dr. Adamu now. I mean, there are so many people like him. Yesterday I met a general, a retired general, Lieutenant General, retired general, who was talking about this same situation on our other channel. All these people, they exist in this country, and they have ideas, clear ideas, tested ideas on what can be done. They know what the challenges are. Is the government engaging them? Why is the National Security Advisor still a politician? We are faced with an existential challenge. But you have in this country today, our National Security Advisor is still a politician, whose best security experience was a policeman, with due respect. You have a politician as the defense minister. So this government is about politics more than anything else. So I think it's wrong for you to say, oh, we are also playing politics about this. No, for us, it's life and death. You know, I mean, for us, like I said, I'm from Kwara State. I'm afraid, I'm worried that my state is gradually being taken over. People talk about Eruku as tragic as it is. Only that same yesterday, there are news report that I saw that in the same Kwara State, in the Feludu local government, Okiode precisely, 12 people were murdered by bandits who have now targeted that state and that village and continue to go there to do whatever they like. They killed yesterday 12 people, including the traditional ruler of the village. So it's beyond politics. This is a time, if there is any time that every Nigerian needs to come together, anybody that has anything to contribute, this is the opportunity. We once issued a statement telling the president and the APC government that we as opposition, we are willing to engage. We are willing to be part of finding solution to this. But all they do is they are defensive, their interpretation of the problem is wrong-headed. They always talk about, excuse me, they are more concerned about convincing Nigerians that they are doing the best, that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Now we have 25 children in captivity, and up to now, two of them have escaped. Alhamdulillah, but we don't know what is happening to the remaining 20. So this situation, if we are not careful, will become another Chibok girls. God forbid, the Chibok girl situation, God forbid. So it's not about the opposition not wanting to engage or not having alternatives to this. I've just mentioned two things to you now. Why is the president still keeping a politician as the National Security Advisor at a time of war? Because we're at war. The bandits can sense that they have real opportunity to take over the country. And but we are not, the government is still approaching the situation as business as usual. So when we are saying this, we are not saying it because we are opposition. We are saying it because we are Nigerians and that we are scared. And that all of us are scared. And that the president has a duty to assure us that he can protect us. He has said it before, that a president that cannot protect his citizens should leave the job. He said it to Jonathan. Now we are saying to him, if he cannot protect us, then he should quit, he should leave, he should resign. Because people are dying, women, children, old women. I mean, you saw the video of that. If that video of the church in Eruku does not move anybody to action, then what will move you to action? What will move you to action? So it's not about politics, please. This is not about politics. People are dying every day. As we wake up today, only God knows who will see the end of today. And we are saying that it's politics. It's not politics.
All right, Mr. Abdullahi, it's a very, very, in fact, it's almost borderline insensitive to discuss any other thing apart from saving lives right now. I can agree with you on that. But let's talk about solution for a moment. I know you said you've approached or written saying, look, you're ready to come to the table. So maybe if you have, I know you've said now, one of the things you've said, if I caught it rightly, is that why is the president keeping Nuhu Ribado? He's a politician. In fact, I remember when he said something and I was literally squirming on my chair, like, no, that shouldn't have come out of your mouth, man. I don't know what conference that was, and I heard the NSA saying, nobody dares Tinubu and win. What does that mean in English? So besides changing guards, what other proposition do you think that we can aggressively use? When I say you now, I'm talking about your party and all of that, or the other side of the collective in terms of proposal to help us stem the tide of this madness by people that are hell-bent on overrunning us. They are now Kwara, Kogi, and that fringe.
Now, you're asking me what we think we can do. As a layman, I'm not a security expert. But the first thing is you expect government to do is to escalate the level of security alertness in this country. You don't see that. The government, this APC government, declared a state of emergency in Rivers State over politics. There are situations in this country today, in Sokoto State today, farmers are being denied access to their farm by bandits who collect taxes from them before they could harvest their crops. And even after harvesting, even after paying the taxes, they still send cattle to eat up their farms. The same thing in Zamfara State. How many people? So the point we are making is that Nigeria is faced with an existential challenge. But this government is approaching it with a business as usual mindset. So the first thing to do is to escalate the level of security alertness in this country and let every citizen feel that there is a sense of real existential danger that we are all faced with. The government is not doing that. All you see them doing is all this drama and all that. Okay, after the girls were abducted, wasn't the vice president sent to Kogi to go and receive the campaigns into their party, thinking on your mandate we shall stand? You see, we should stop. If the government is really keen to deal with this problem, government has the capacity to deal with it. You are talking about mere changing of guards. No, it's not just changing of guards can make a whole lot of difference. We've seen it in this country. Nigerian military is not useless. Go to Liberia. They are still telling the stories of Nigerian soldiers. Go to Sierra Leone. They are still telling the stories of Nigerian soldiers. So the same Nigerian soldiers, if you don't, I listened to one that, like the general I mentioned earlier, he said some soldiers have been on duty for 5 years. They've not seen their families in 5 years. These are real issues that need to be dealt with. This same president, don't forget, you remember the famous or infamous Agbado theory. Was it not the same president that said if he become president, he was going to recruit 50,000 youth into the army, and that if you wonder what they are going to eat, you give them agbado in the morning and give them corn in the afternoon. So what happened to that? What happened to the 50,000 that he said he was going to recruit? They said they have recruited some forest security. Yesterday at Transport Meeting, I saw some of these forest security people standing around, probably guarding some VIPs. Is that why they are recruited? So there is a high level of unseriousness in all this that is almost tragic on its own. You know, so when the recent service chiefs and other people that I don't know their capacity, what they are able to do, but this is probably the first time from what I'm hearing that these people are being appointed on geopolitical basis, on the ethnic balancing and geopolitical basis. You know, so how are you faced with this kind of situation? And what you are thinking about is geopolitical balancing in the appointment of people who can protect us. So a whole lot of things are going on. Apart from the fact that the insurgency has become an economy of its own, it has become a lucrative enterprise for some people, and they will not want it to end. So you expect that the president, who understands that his primary responsibility is to protect life, will approach this with a different mindset. No, okay. But everything to them is about politics, is about 2027, and they will do anything to protect that, and that comes first for them. This is the real tragedy. Yeah, Nigeria is becoming a killing field. We can't continue to bury people every day. My sincere apologies. We are working towards 2027. Yeah,
that point is made, and there is no one who can argue with that. However, there is also something that we've also spoken about this morning, and it's been a trend. Most times when we talk about insecurity in Nigeria, we're always focusing on the presidency. But then the president is just one person, and as you have said, appointees all over the place. The security agents that spoke with us, the security expert that spoke with us earlier, talked about the fact that there's a DSS official in every local government in Nigeria, and their heads always have one reason or the other to interface with the governors. Now, you are also in this country when a serving governor said that I think it was in when the Kankara boys were abducted. A governor said, we know the people behind these things. A governor. And former governors have also said, these people are not ghosts. So, is it, how should the political class, I mean, I'm talking about, because there is, just as Jeffrey said earlier, there is always that correlation, there's always that kind of a relationship between politics and all these issues, and security agents, as well as security experts have spoken to that. So at the states level, particularly in the space of the governors, don't they have a responsibility in all these things? Particularly, I mean, speaking especially from the political angle, if these issues have political connections, how come the governors themselves cannot? Because they are all across party lines. What are your thoughts on that?
You see, the governors, they say they are chief security officers for their state, but that's just in nominal terms. In reality, they can't secure anything. They don't have control the police, not to talk of the military. So in reality, there is no much they can do. I'm not talking about the attitude of some of these governors. What happened in my state in Eruku, in Ekiti local government, I'm sure by now, up to now, maybe this morning, the situation will have changed. The governor of Kwara State has not visited that community to even have an idea of what led to the situation and what needs to be done, and so that he can come to Abuja as they all have to do to beg for help. So, and that's why we are saying that there's a fundamental issue here. You see, this is another point here. We say our political parties don't have any ideology. But if you can call anything, if there's anything that looks like a semblance of ideology in the APC political party, it's their promise of restructuring. In 2014-2015, it is in the manifesto of APC that they will restructure governance in Nigeria, restructuring governance. And I remember I was in APC at the time. I was a member of the panel headed by Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna at the time, who went around this country and wrote a report on how to implement the restructuring promise of the APC. But what happened? Up to today, we don't know what happened to that report. We presented it to the president of Nigeria at the time, Muhammadu Buhari, and that was the end of it. So that brings us back to the question you asked, the issue you raised earlier about the president being one person. You see, don't let us make a mistake. The president of Nigeria is an extremely powerful man. He's an extremely more powerful than most presidents in the world in terms of what the law allows him to do. But the question is whether he's willing to do it. Don't forget, the legislative power is vested in the legislative institution, so you cannot really blame one person for that. The judicial authority is vested in the judicial institution, but the executive power is vested in the president of Nigeria. So any other person holding any other position everywhere that is an appointee of the president is only holding that power on behalf of the president. So you cannot apportion the boss stops at his table. He has to take the responsibility. If anybody that he has appointed is not doing his job, he has a duty to fire them. But he's not doing that. He's mollycoddling these people because he's invested in politics and is concerned about the role that they could play in helping him to win the next election. Why are you still keeping a politician as your defense minister when you have retired generals who have seen it, who have been on the field, who know where these problems are and who know what needs to be done? Why are you still keeping politicians as defense minister? So you see, don't let us shift the blame. It is the president of Nigeria. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself has said it repeatedly before he became president. He told President Jonathan, it is your job, and if you can't do it, resign. So we are saying the same thing to him, because this is too much. This is getting too much. It has to stop. Nigeria is becoming a country where anybody can kill anybody and get away with it. Is that the kind of country we want? We are talking about 2027 and politics. Are we going to preside over dead people? Is this a mortuary? Is Nigeria a mortuary now? You know, so this is not the issue of, don't let us even play politics with it. This is a very serious matter, and if you watch my interviews, I hardly talk like this, but this is I'm worried like any other Nigerian. I'm worried. This is not about ADC or APC. I'm talking to you as a Nigerian. I'm privileged to have a voice to talk to you, and I'm using it now. The president needs to do something. They should stop playing politics. They should stop seeing any alternative view as a challenge to their wisdom. We are not blaming them for the security in the country, but they should have the humility to know that whatever they are doing is not working, and they need to ask for help, wherever that help will come from. But they are not doing that.
All right, Mr. Abdullahi, I think well expressed, well spoken. Your passion came through from your thought and your expression. And I'm happy that we stuck to the sentiment of Nigerians. It would have been a disservice to the people if we resorted to talking about politics, because right now, we need we need people to be alive to be able to politic in the first place. That I think we can all agree, and whatever has to be done urgently needs to be done. Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, the spokesperson of the ADC, thank you, sir. We really appreciate your coming on the program. All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to the president of the National Association of Resident Doctors. Their strike has entered day 20. Stay with us.
Thank you so much for staying with us on this program. The NARD strike is in day 20, and it's as disturbing as it comes. But then, anyway, let's have conversations this morning with Dr. Mohammed Adamu, who is the president of the National Association of Resident Doctors. Thank you for joining us this morning, doctor. Now, the federal government says...
Thank you for having me this morning.
Yes.
Sorry, it's Dr. Muhammad Usman Suleiman.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Mohammed Usman Suleiman, thank you so much for joining. Now, the federal government says that you should suspend the strike, the ongoing strike, because 19 out of your 21 demands have been addressed. But you insist that until all are addressed, there is no going back. Please speak to us about that.
Thank you for having me this morning. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, you are right, is on strike, and it's total, comprehensive, and indefinite, and it is on day 20. We have 19 demands, not 21 demands, 19. And of these 19 demands, we have sat down with the team from the federal government in a conciliation. We have had 3 conciliation meetings, and in these conciliations, we have agreed on timelines. Now, mind you, all the 19 items, no one has faulted their genuineness. No one has also faulted the need to resolve all of them. Now, of all the 19 demands, there's nothing that is new being brought to the table as a fresh, new thing. These are things that have lingered for years, and previous agreements on these matters have been flouted by the federal government. Now, we came to this table now. Let me just take a few issues and explain to you what is happening. We discussed the promotion areas for medical officers. These are doctors that work for the federal government that have been promoted way back from 2019, 18, 2020, 21 till date. No promotion areas. We agreed that these promotion areas are going to be calculated. They are going to be compiled as at Friday last week and forwarded to the Minister of Finance, who in one of the conciliation promised us, I can't pay immediately, but I can create a payment plan. And we gave that concession. Once Chief Wale Edun gives you a payment plan, I mean, you should go home and relax. That was what we thought. That was agreed to happen as at Friday. Today is Thursday. That compilation has not been sent. We don't even know if it has been completed. Not talk of being sent to the Ministry of Finance for their own input for us to complete that. Take, for instance, the issue of the salary areas. There are doctors who have between 3 months to 20 months salary areas. These are not allowances, these are salary areas. between 3 months to 20 months. Different institutions, 5, 6, 7 institutions, also agreed that this compilation will be completed on Friday, which has been done. We have verified that. But that has not been forwarded to the Ministry of Finance and the Budget Office for them to work on the second part of the agreement, as told to us by Chief Waledun, who was very willing to give us a payment plan. That has not been done. If you take, for instance, the professional allowance table, this is an injustice of about 7 years. We agreed with the federal government since 2014 last. When you review the basic salary, you review the allowances. As I'm talking to you now, doctors only get about 45 to maybe 50 or 60% of their allowances as at the last salary that was paid. Now everybody agreed, the calculations have been done, the tables have been put up. Release them, implement them, then you begin to hear a lot of stories. Eventually, during the conciliation, we agreed as a Thursday that after a few days, it was going to be released. In fact, we were so excited, we went ahead to even call a National Executive Council meeting in view of the release of some of these tables and some of these agreements, only to come to sign the agreement, the MOU on Friday, that will capture all of this. And we were told, no, it can only come after another 2 weeks. So what is the plan? You sign the MOU, you go and suspend your strike, and then in 2 weeks, you begin to collect another story. In fact, the decision to shift it didn't happen during the conciliation. It was at the point of signing the MOU that, no, you can't put a few days, or you have to put at least 2 weeks before it can come. You know, if you look at the entry level for doctors, that has been downgraded from Commerce 3 down to Commerce 2. This is a whole 150,000 naira difference in salaries. We agreed that a letter was going to be transmitted to the head of service to clarify the issue, because there's already a head of service circular way back to 2014 permitting these adjustments in the entry level, allowing it. So it's legal. It is not illegal. Someone just woke up and decided to step it down. Now that letter, we were told it was written to the head of service. We just found out that the head of service is not even aware that that issue is on the table for it to clarify. This was agreed to be sorted out as at Friday last week. This is a whole 6 days after, and that clarification has not been done. There's the matter for upgrading doctors. If you're a doctor and you're a resident, you do a 3-year posting, and then you write an exam. If you pass, you're upgraded from Commerce 3 to Commerce 4. 1 year later, you're upgraded from Commerce 4 to Commerce 5. We agreed a letter will be written as at Tuesday last week. A letter will be written to the Accountant General and directed to IPPI, so that an officer will sit down and do these upgrades. There are people over a year, 2 upgrades have not been done. The arrears are still counting. They've not been sorted out. Now, just to find out, as I'm talking to you this morning, that letter has not been written to the Accountant General. And this was supposed to be sorted out as a Tuesday, Wednesday last week in the MOU that was to be signed on Friday. So if we had even signed the MOU, assuming we had signed the MOU, we would have been off strike now. All right. And the issues would have still been lingering. All right, so Doctor, I can go on and on and on all the individual issues to clarify this position to you, that we have agreed to do X, Y, Z. And the timeline has elapsed. And they just want us to sign an MOU just for the sake of calling off a strike, not for the interest of sorting out the issue.
So for you, for the want of time, you know, there are people that I think naturally we shouldn't ever allow to go on strike. People like you, doctors. This is total, this is indefinite, and you constitute the greater majority of the doctors when it comes to our public hospitals around the country. So this is a national crisis, to say the least. That's just being mild about it. What has to happen in the immediate, that in 24, 72 hours, if you see this action from government, this strike at least will be called off, even if temporarily?
The NEC was very clear about that after Monday. Reinstate the Lokoja 5. Release the professional allowance table for implementation. Give us a timeline. In fact, pay the promotion areas. Pay the salary areas. Ensure that whatever we agree in that MOU is implemented. Pay the specialist allowance to Commerce 5. You know, the membership certificate issue should be put to rest. These are simple issues. These are issues that one letter will solve. These are issues that one release will solve, one circular will solve. The NEC also made it very clear that those items on the MOU, what was agreed on the table for the conciliation, let it be reflected as such on the MOU. Then NARD can sign that MOU, and then we can find a way to have meetings to discuss suspending or calling off the strike. It's as easy as that. It's as straightforward as that. And I'm not missing word. And permit me to say, no one from the table of government or from the side of government will tell you that these are not what were discussed on these issues. And the actions have not been taken up till now. I mean, we've been talking about this as a country for the last 1 week. It is the responsibility of government to secure lives and properties. Now, making it seem as if it is the duty of doctors to save those lives. I mean, we're just being less than honest. I think it's important that we understand that for these issues to be sorted out, government needs to be serious. Permit me to emphasize one issue. We've talked about excess workload to doctors. Have Nigerians ever wondered what that looks like? So for a typical doctor, you come to work 8 in the morning. You work your normal civil service hours 8 to 4. And if you're on call that day, you take a call from 4 to 8 the next morning. You continue your civil service job from 8 to 4 the next day. If you're on call that day again, you continue 4 to 8. You continue like that. Now, I have Dr. Doctors, my own treasurer.
My sincere apologies if you can hear me.
As the only senior
Dr. Suleiman, 1 second if you can hear me. What you are describing is exactly what we talked about earlier when we talked about the welfare of soldiers themselves. It seems like every profession in the country is going through the same thing. We can only hope that some of your colleagues, because I want to believe that there are medical doctors in the civil service as well, and they know all of the pains, and they will do the most that they can to resolve the issues. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and we sincerely wish you all the best. Dr. Mohammed Suleiman is the president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was quite important we mainstream that issue. In fact, we're going to have a broader conversation with them and maybe representative of government as far as this issue is concerned. Doctors should not ever, military, police, doctors, those people,
essential services,
whatever we have to do, even if we have to empty part of our treasury to make them stay at work, then we sort ourselves out. That's how essential they are. But that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and your company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour. Bye-bye.
Yes, the studio is already agog. Amaya Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your day.